I'm Barry Lynn Schwartz. I think most of you know that. I am one of the co-presidents of the National Council of Jewish Women Bergen County section. And I am so excited about today's program. We are truly honored to have Bergen County's prosecutor here today, Mark Musella, to tell us about scams and frauds. However, I just would like to tell you about the extent of the work that the prosecutor's office does and the huge responsibility that Mark Musella has to protect our county, Bergen County. He was sworn in as Bergen County Prosecutor in May of 2019. He is the Chief Law Enforcement Officer in Bergen County, the most populous county in New Jersey, and home to nearly 1 million residents living in 70 municipalities. He oversees a staff of approximately 270 personnel, consisting of assistant prosecutors, detectives, and support staff. He also exercises supervisory authority over approximately 2,700 sworn law enforcement officers in 72 law enforcement agencies throughout Bergen County. He oversees the Bergen County Police Academy, a Bergen County SWAT team. I could go on and on and on, and Mark will probably extend beyond that in telling you about it. He has a very impressive career. He began his legal career as a law clerk for the Honorable Ralph Polito, JSC. He worked as an assistant prosecutor in the Bergen County Police Prosecutor's Office from 1988 to 1994. And then he left for, I think, about 6 years and had a private law practice.
27 years, but who's counting?
27 years.
Barry Lynn.
Sorry. So he is a true Bergen County resident. He's lifelong. He graduated from Bergen Catholic High School, received a Bachelor of Arts degree in English from Fordham, and obtained his law degree from Delaware Law School, the Widener University in, I guess, 1987. So he resides in Bergen County with his wife of more than 30 years and their 2 sons, and he remains active as a community volunteer. Prosecutor Musella, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Barry Lynn, for that great introduction. I want to wish a happy Hanukkah to everyone that's attending and all your family members. And thank you for having me. And I'm excited to be here today and talk to this group. You know, my office, we have scheduled many of these presentations, and I have about, I'm on the circuit, and I'm doing about 30 of these presentations. And it's something that's very important. It's something that's important to me personally, because my parents were a victim of a scam. And we saw an uptick in scams during COVID. So this is something that we thought we would have to address. And we've been doing these presentations both virtually and in person. So before I get into the nuts and bolts of today's presentation with regard to scams, I just want to tell you a little bit more about myself and the prosecutor's office. And I thank Barry Lynn for that excellent introduction. And I find it, though, useful to just really go into to tell you a little bit about something, a little bit about what the prosecutor's office does, because I got to be honest with you. I did, as Barry Lynn stated, I was a prosecutor in the late 80s and early 90s. I was here for 7 years as a line assistant prosecutor. I was a trial attorney. I tried 50 jury trials. It was one of the honors of my life and one of the great experiences of my life to be an assistant prosecutor. But the office has grown so much since I was here, and we do so much more and take on so many more responsibilities now that the public, that I didn't know that we did, and I'm sure that the public doesn't know about. So I am a big proponent of the prosecutor's office and of law enforcement and policing. And we really do it right here in Bergen County. And we're all blessed to really have the law enforcement professionals that we have in Bergen County and the people in my office. So Barry Lynn told you a little bit about our office. So there are 21 prosecutors in the state of New Jersey. And I'm one of the 21. We are overseen by the Attorney General of the state of New Jersey. You may recall that prior to my predecessor, prior to me being prosecutor, was a gentleman named Bergen Graywall. He was the prosecutor in Bergen County for about 2 years, and then he was tapped by the governor to be the Attorney General. And he was my boss when I first started. We have a new Attorney General now, Andrew Bruck, and the Attorney General is seated in Trenton, and the Attorney General oversees the 21 county prosecutors. Bergen Graywall has since moved on. He is now with the Security and Exchange Commission in Washington, D.C. But Governor Murphy appoints the Attorney General, and Governor Murphy appoints the prosecutors. And he appointed me approximately 2 years ago, and I was really blessed to get the nomination. And it's an honor to serve the people of Bergen County. So, our office in Bergen County is one of the larger prosecutors' offices in the state. We have there are 9 million people in New Jersey, but we have over 1 million people in Bergen County. So our office is the largest by population in that in the community that we serve is the largest in the state. Also, there's 9,000 police officers in New Jersey. We have 3,000, almost 3,000 police officers in Bergen County. So we have the largest police force out of any of the counties. And many of you may or may not know this, but New Jersey, Bergen County by population is larger than 5 states in the United States. So we actually have a very, a big population. We have a very diverse population, and it's a very big undertaking that we take on here in Bergen County and in law enforcement. As Barry Lynn stated to you, we have 270 employees in our office. 60 of them are assistant prosecutors, lawyers. 110 are detectives, and 110, approximately 100 are support staff, clerical, and IT staff that helps us with our computers and all our production and our resources. So the lawyers are overseen by my first assistant prosecutor. His name is Dennis Callow. And the investigators are overseen by my chief of investigators. His name is Jason Love. So our office, if you kind of picture a pyramid, we oversee the entire law enforcement in Bergen County. So there are 70 towns in Bergen County. That's something also unique to Bergen County. It doesn't exist in other counties throughout the state. And because we have 70 towns, so you can imagine we have 70 police chiefs. We have 70 municipal judges. We have 70 municipal prosecutors. The municipal prosecutors are also overseen by my office. The 70 chiefs also report to my chief. So they're overseen by our office. And then the 3,000 police officers in Bergen County are also overseen by our office. And we are responsible for also training them as well. And that's why we oversee the Bergen County Police Academy in Mahwah. And I have a full-time lieutenant up there, Lieutenant Arievo, who was a retired Navy SEAL. He oversees the police academy in Bergen County. We also oversee the sheriff's department, and we also oversee the Bergen County SWAT team. So you may or may not know that, when it says when we talk about overseeing police departments, sometimes it's necessary for us to actually go into a town and take over the police department or help them in their day-to-day management of the police department. So right now, we're also in Englewood Police Department. I have a full-time captain deputy chief. I have a deputy chief in Englewood, and we were recently in Saddlebrook, and we are overseeing the Saddlebrook Police Department, but we have an MOU with them, and there's an officer in charge who reports to one of my captains. So we do oversee these police departments. And what you may want to know about that is that, so when you get a speeding ticket in your town, you go to the municipal court in your town, you'll see the municipal prosecutor and you'll see the municipal judge. And again, one of the police officers in town would have issued that ticket. So that's a municipal matter. My office gets involved when it's a crime, what's called a felony. So if it's a first or second or third degree crime, and these are usually the major crimes such as murder, homicides, kidnappings, home invasions, armed robberies, human trafficking, sexual assault cases, frauds, and financial crimes that are over $75,000. So these are really what are called felonies, and these are serious crimes. And by Attorney General directive and by prosecutor directive, the chiefs and the police officers must turn those cases over to us. So when they get called out on one of those crimes, they can investigate it. But usually what they do is they kind of, set up the crime scene tape and call our office in for our expertise. And our expertise is that our 110 detectives are specially trained. So they have special education, they have special experience, they have special technical know-how and resources. And these detectives are seasoned detectives. A lot of them have come from the local police departments. And then when they come to our office, they apply to work in our office, and we take them because of their experience and their technical know-how. And then we continue to train them at the police academy and throughout the state. And sometimes they take courses at the FBI Academy at Quantico, and they also go nationwide and take courses as well, so that they have a specialized expertise in some of the crimes that I've just mentioned. So our office takes over those crimes. We investigate those crimes. We also prosecute those crimes. So once an individual is charged with a crime, it has to go to court. And that's where the attorneys come in. And we have 60 assistant prosecutors. Again, we have some of the best assistant prosecutors in the state, if not the country, because again, they're seasoned attorneys. Many of them have worked here. I have attorneys here that have been here 25, 30 years. I have attorneys that come back after retirement and come back on a per diem basis. And some of them have been attorneys 30 and 40 years. And they work in the appellate division and lend support to some of the other squads. Each of the squads that I've mentioned, major crimes, SVU, which is Special Victims Unit, financial crimes, cyber crimes, intel, all these units have an assistant prosecutor assigned as a chief and a lieutenant assigned as a supervising officer. So we do a lot as far as law enforcement, but what you may not know is we also do a lot in the community engagement field and community affairs field. We have a chaplains bureau. We have 10 chaplains. These are faith leaders from different communities. We have I have 2 rabbis. I have 2 reverends. I have 2 Catholic priests. I have a Muslim imam, and we have these individuals as our clergy to help us service their communities better, and also to help service our employees as far as for resiliency and for faith matters, and just to have someone to talk to. So they come in once a month and talk to our employees, and we talk to them about their needs and their concerns in their communities as well. And our community engagement unit is out in Bergen County throughout the community on a daily basis. So this is something we do. We do presentations such as this one. I've done presentations on bullying. I've done presentations on sexual assault and date rape. But we have investigators that are, and now I'm doing this one on senior scams, and we are planning one in the future on domestic violence. We have investigators that are in the schools every Friday in 7th and 8th grade, and in freshman and sophomore high school. We have they're members of our narcotics task force, and they talk to our students about the dangers of opioid abuse, bullying, and bias crimes. And we also go to the colleges, and we speak to the colleges and the young women and the young men about sexual assault and date rape, and again, bullying and bias crimes. We have also, during COVID and beyond and prior to COVID, we act as a force multiplier to whatever organization really needs us. So when the county needs something, they call us. So during COVID, there was a need for us to help out in making food deliveries and packaging food and just delivering food to not only the first responders, but Meals on Wheels. You can understand that a lot of these companies and institutions were short on employees during COVID. So we stepped into that gap, and we helped out in deliveries of food. We helped the New Jersey Food Bank package food down in Edison and deliver that food. And we delivered 2,500 meals to the food insecure in Fairview one day. And we were able to give them, canned goods and groceries and fresh produce and frozen chicken. And that was really, something to be seen that day. 2,500 families in Fairview that lined up to receive this food. We also made deliveries for Meals on Wheels. We've also packaged food for the food pantries around the county. We assisted the county and Commissioner Tracy Zuhr in her efforts to keep the food pantries fully stocked. And we act as, again, a force multiplier between the Food Bank of New Jersey by packaging the food and then helping deliver it to these food pantries. And these are members of my office that do this on a volunteer basis. In addition to all the things that they do, the investigative work that they do, and the trial work that they do, we volunteer at night and on weekends to do all this work. We also, one story, and then I just really want to tell you this because it really shows you, when there's a need, if you call us, we will help out your organization. So during COVID, we were made aware that nurses, a few of the investigators in my office had daughters that were nurses, and they indicated that some of their patients were dying in the area hospitals, and they were not able to have conversations with their loved ones because the loved ones were not allowed in the hospital. So many of these conversations were done over cell phones, which was really not, was really not a good way to have a conversation with a loved one. Some of your last conversations. So we were able to, we took up a collection, and we were able to raise money, a lot of money. The donations were given by assistant prosecutors in my office, detectives in my office, and then PC Richard matched us in those donations, and we were able to purchase 600 tablets, and we delivered those tablets to area hospitals. All 4 of the area hospitals received tablets from our office, and I received letters from several individuals that indicated to me that one of the last conversations they had with their parent or loved one was over one of the tablets that we provided. So these are things that, was outside the traditional law enforcement umbrella, but these are things that we do. We're finding that community engagement is very important. Community engagement is again, getting into our communities, engaging with our communities, finding out from our communities their specific needs, and educating our communities, educating the people in our communities, because we find that if through education we can maybe stop crime before it happens. And it goes back to that the quote from Mahatma Gandhi that says, we could pull so many people out of the river downstream, but there comes a point where we have to find out, we have to go upstream and stop these people from falling in the river upstream. And that's what we're trying to do in law enforcement. It's really, again, since I started my career as an assistant prosecutor in the 1980s and 1990s, it's really come full circle now. We did not have a community engagement or community affairs unit at all when I was in this office in the 80s and 90s. And now we have almost 10 full-time people working in community engagement, 2 assistant prosecutors and a full-time lieutenant and other support staff. And we also have a video staff and a audio staff as well to help us with our community engagement. And I would encourage you to go on BCPO NJ, which is our social media, on any of these social media platforms. You can find us on there, and you'll see some of really the good things that our office is doing on a daily basis. So I would encourage you to follow us on that. And then I just want to also talk about some of the training that's going on up at the police academy. We're tasked with training all 3,000 officers in service training. They have to go through mandated training that is mandated by the Attorney General's office by directive and by myself through directive. And we also trained the new police recruits as well. And I'll just tell you about some of the things that are going on up there. Right now, I have 2 full-time assistant prosecutors assigned up there to teach in-service training. The Attorney General has issued directives that all the in-service, all 3,000 police officers have to go through what's called ICAT training. This training is basically de-escalation training. We want to teach our officers de-escalation techniques so that incidents do not get to the point where deadly force is used. We also have active bystander training, which is ABLE training. Again, officers are now trained that they must intervene if one of their counterparts is using excessive force. We have resiliency training going on right now. We found that, through studies have shown that police officers are almost 3 times as likely to take their own lives as a result of the job that they do, as a result of the stress that they witness day in and day out. So we are making all our officers go through mandatory resiliency training, and we're making all our officers go through mandatory psychological counseling so that we remove the stigma of an officer wanting to seek help. Now everyone must go, so there's no stigma anymore. And what happens also during resiliency training, we find, if someone has a problem at home with regard to alcohol, or they're having a problem with their marriage, or they're having financial problems, this has to be addressed before they go to work and strap on the tool belt and go on the street and patrol. We have to address this. We have to make sure our officers, just like they go for checkups, physical checkups, medical checkups, they have to go and have mental checkups so that they can do the job properly. We find that, an officer that is not functioning or is having difficulties at home because of any of these reasons is not going to really be the officer that we want patrolling our communities. So mandatory resiliency training, we believe, and believe me, I've sat in on these trainings, and it works because people open up and people talk, and people see that they have to address the problems they have in their lives. So this is very important stuff that's going on. And one final thing I want to talk about is we've instituted, and I believe it's the only one of its kind, definitely in New Jersey, but it may be in the country. We have something called candid conversations with our new police recruits. And what we did was we brought in someone from the African-American community to address our police recruits. We brought in someone from the LGBTQ community to address our police recruits. We brought in someone from the Muslim community. We brought in someone from the Asian community. We bring in people from all different communities, the Jewish community as well, to speak to our recruits about what it's like to be a person of that background and to be in a police encounter. We do this so that we want to have these candid conversations, these conversations that are tough to have, because we want these recruits to realize that their responsibility is to serve their community. We make them very aware that when they go into a community, when they're hired by a police department in a community in Bergen County, such a diverse county as ourselves, it's their responsibility to learn the customs and the traits and the customs of the community that they serve. So if they're, for example, in a community that is heavily a Muslim community, they have to learn the customs of that community. They'll better be able to serve that community. And we want them to interact with the individuals and the people in their community and get to know them better, because then they can better serve their communities. So these are some of the things we're doing. I like to, I know I go on and on about it, but I'm really proud of the work we're doing. I'm really proud of the things that's going on at the police academy, the things that are going on in law enforcement in Bergen County, as you can tell. So I'm sorry if I went on too long about that, but I think it's important that the public really know all that we do more than just investigation, arrest, and the traditional, prosecution in the courtroom. So that having been said, I will take questions at the end if you have any questions about anything that I just said. And at this point, I'd like to maybe go into addressing specifically why I'm here today and talk to you about scams. We originally started this this presentation because we saw an uptick in scams against seniors, but we really seen an uptick in scams against all individuals in Bergen County and every community in Bergen County. So we thought it was necessary, again, if we can go out and we can educate just one of you today and ask that you share with your friends and family some of the things we're going to talk to about today. Again, you could help us by being a force multiplier and help us to gather intel and help us actually, stop these crimes before they happen. So again, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your children. I think my assistant Carol emailed this pamphlet that we've had printed up to Barry Lynn Swartz and asked that she send it to you. And if you don't have it, please call her. We'll make sure that she has it, and we'll make sure that you get it. And this is something that you can print out. And I would urge you to keep it in your kitchen, keep it on your refrigerator, and read it. Read it from time to time, just so that it's fresh in your memory. It's a scam alert. It's a brochure that we provided. A lot of the things, almost all the things that I'm going to talk to you about today are in here. And this is something, again, you share it with your neighbors, share it with your children, and you can then help us actually fight crime, and you could actually help us fight these scammers that are out there that are trying to take your hard-earned money. So I'm going to go through this brochure with you, and you're going to see a lot of things I talk about are in here. So why is this important? Well, it's important because we saw that there was an uptick in scams during COVID because people were isolated, people were home, people were not having meetings like we're having today. So people weren't talking to each other. And, criminals, they really prey on this, and they really feed off of this. They feed off of isolation, because if they can get you alone, they can talk their way into your house now on the telephone or by the computer, or even in person. We saw before COVID and after some COVID restrictions have loosened up, the people were starting to come around ringing doorbells again. So you're going to hear about three different types of scams today: in-person scams. You're going to hear about telephone scams. You're going to hear about scams over the computer. And unfortunately, these defendants are working these criminal defendants are working 24/7 to try and scam you out of your hard-earned money. So we're trying to get this word out ahead of time so that we can stop these scams before they happen. And one thing I say at all these presentations, if you think you're the victim of the scam, or you think that just something's not right, call the police. And that's the number one takeaway from today that you should have is never feel that you're, because a woman raised her hand in one of my presentations and said, I don't want to call the police. They're so busy. They have so many things going on. I don't want to bother them. You're never bothering us. We're here to serve you. And what I explained to her was, by calling the police and telling the police something, you can prevent crime, and you could maybe prevent someone else from being the victim of a crime. The office, we work for you. We want to hear from you. If you call us with information, it's intelligence gathering that we're going to do from that information, because if one or two people call us about the same thing that's happening, it's going to be something that we need to be alerted to. Also, we will send a patrol officer out to investigate it. And again, it may be something, but it may not be something. You may call and say, listen, there's a suspicious car that's been circling my block. And, maybe something, may not be nothing, but an officer will come out and he'll check it out. And it may be that maybe in that car, there's proceeds of a burglary or a robbery, and that we may be able to recover those items for the victim that those items were taken from. Or there may be something else that the officer will discover as a result of that telephone call that you have made. And if not, again, we always say call the police, because we take this information down, we treat it seriously, and we use it as information gathering and intel. And a lot of the things that I'm going to talk to you about today is because of these are true crimes. These are true cases that we have had, and just a lot of tips that we received from the public as well. So the first scam I'm going to talk to you about are the in-person scams. And these scams were taking place prior to COVID. They really didn't take place during COVID because a lot of us were locked down, but they also then started again after COVID. And the first scam I'm going to talk to you about is, it's personal to me because my parents, prior to them passing away, were the victim of this scam. So this scam is called the utility worker scam. And in this scam, what happens is you're going to get somebody is going to, and again, these people, they do their homework and they really sometimes take weeks to develop these scams. And in this particular scam, two individuals came to my parents' door. My parents lived in Woodridge all their life. My father came from Italy. He was an immigrant. He worked in this country for 35 years in construction, but he was a very friendly individual. And you know, that's why we see that scammers sometimes prey on seniors and prey on older adults, because they know that your generation is more friendly, more trusting. And that's not a knock on your generation. Your generation is the greatest generation. Your generation has worked hard. Your generation has money. And that's another reason you've worked hard. You've saved your money. Where do criminals go? Where do criminals look to get money? People that have money. That's another reason why they target you. And they target you because you're trusting. And a lot of times they trust in you. They target you because you're vulnerable and you're lonely. A lot of times they'll target widows and widowers as well. But my parents were targeted, I believe, because of the fact that my father was always outside the house, always talking to people that were passing by. And that was just his nature. He was always in the garden. He was always working around the house. And he was always, the joke in our family was he'd be ready with a song, a dance, a joke, or a story. And he would stop any passerby and talk to them. So these individuals came to the house, knocked on the door. They had all the bells and whistles of water employees, Suez water employees. They said they were from Suez Water Company. They had uniforms, they had a hat, they had a badge, they had a clipboard, they had a radio. And to make the story more believable, there was actual construction work by the water company being done in town on the boulevard in Woodridge. They were replacing the water pipes. So it made sense to my father when these individuals came to the door and rang the doorbell and said, we've gotten complaints that the water in town has been contaminated. We're going door to door. We're checking to see if the water is running brown or if the water is contaminated. Can we come in? And the first mistake my father made was he let them in. So if you take anything out of today's presentation is please do not let anybody in your house, especially if you're alone, but do not let anyone in your house when they ring your doorbell unannounced. What you can do is you say, no, you cannot come in. If they say they're from the water company, don't let them in. Call the water company. The water company will tell you if they have people in town going door to door. Call the police department. The water company must report to the police department. All utility companies must report to the police department when they're in town doing work and when they have individuals in town going door to door. If you call the police department, if my father would have made any of those two phone calls, he would have found out that there were no employees from Suez in town that day, and he would not have let them in. But he did not do that. He let them in because of his trusting nature. And he said, sure, come on in. And they went to the kitchen and they put the water on, and the water was running clear. And that should have been the second sign that the water was running clear. And he said, everything's fine. But then this individual started talking to him and distracting him and asking him about Italy and asking him about, how long, just idle chit chat that my father would wanted to make friends, wanted to talk to people because of his trusting nature. And he started to tell him his stories about Italy. And the other individual then took this opportunity to sneak off and go into the master bedroom. And my mother was in the master bedroom doing her bills at her desk. And this gentleman walked in and she said, who are you? What are you doing? Get out of my house. And he said to her, sit down and shut up and you won't get hurt. And so she did the right thing. At that point, she did nothing. She just sat there. She was very emotional. She cried while this gentleman ransacked the bedroom, went through the bedroom and found items, my grandmother's wedding ring, my aunt's wedding ring who had passed, my mother's tennis bracelet, cash, and other heirloom items. And they got away that day with almost $50,000 worth of jewelry and cash from my parents' bedroom. So that's the second lesson that I'm going to tell you today. If you take two things out of this today, number one, call the police. Number two, do not let anybody in your house for any reason. And number three, do not keep your valuable items stored in your master bedroom. please keep your valuable items in a safety deposit box. Hide them in other parts of your house. I tell people hide them in your attic, but if you hide them, make sure you write down somewhere where you hid them so you don't forget where you hid them. Tell your children where you hid these items. Store them with your children. I had a safety deposit box. I had a safe. I would always ask my mother, give me your valuables. My mother didn't feel that she should give me her valuables. But in any event, we tell you, do not store your valuables in your master bedroom. We have learned in law enforcement. I'm telling you, I've spoken to criminals directly, and they have told me that they do not want to be in a house more than 2 minutes. If they are entering a house for burglary or for any other reason, they go directly to the master bedroom because they know the majority of the people, 9 out of 10 people, keep their valuable items in their master bedroom, their wedding ring, their cash. I'm sure if right now you're all thinking to yourselves, if somebody came into my master bedroom, on my dresser right now would be all my valuable items. And that's what the criminals know as well. And that's where they go. So if again, do not let anybody into your house. But again, if somebody would break into your house, don't have the valuable items in your master bedroom. I had a woman actually just yesterday on one of the presentations I did. She said to me, not only do I keep my valuable items in my master bedroom in the top drawer of my dresser, but they say that they're in a little box and they say on them, the good stuff. So my children will know where I keep my valuable items. But certainly, of course, if a criminal broke into the house, they would also know that that was the good stuff. And you just made their job easier. They could be in and out of your house in 2 minutes. So that was what happened to my parents. So there's lessons to be learned from that. And again, I told you, please always call the police, call the utility company. Don't let anyone in your house, and don't keep any valuable items in your master bedroom. Now, this scam is also, and you'll see that a lot of these scams morph into other scams. Criminals, they get an idea and then they're on to the next thing. And how can we make this scam better? So there's also scams that we also have seen in our office. And again, these are real cases where people pose as repairmen. And some of them are repairmen. Some of them are shoddy shysters. Some of them are not very good repairmen. And again, a lot of these people should be reported to the Better Business Bureau. And if you call the Better Business Bureau and check someone out, they'll know who is a good repairman and who is not. A lot of these repairmen are just really fly-by-night repairmen. And you kind of can know when these individuals are not who they say they are. A lot of times you'll see these cars and trucks that will come by, and they'll have the writing on the side of the truck will be in magic marker or in painted on, or just you'll be able to know that something doesn't feel right. And if somebody comes to your door and offers to do a job for you, and that's just too good to be true, it is probably too good to be true. If you've gotten a quote that someone would pave your driveway for $3,000 and someone comes and says they're going to do it for $500, chances are it's a scam. Chances are they're going to take that money and do a lousy job or not do any work at all. And we've seen it all. We've seen they'll come out, they'll pour some tar down, and they'll take off and do just a lousy job, or they'll just take your money and not come back at all. We've seen cases where they'll knock on your door and they'll say your gutters need to be repaired. Be very careful with this scam, because in that truck, there'll be 2 or 3 individuals waiting they'll come to the door, they'll knock on your door, they'll ask you to come out to look at your gutters. And while you go around the side of your house to look at your gutters, 2 or 3 people will run into your house and ransack your house. If someone rings your doorbell and you answer the door and there is a ladder on your house already, that is a scam. Call the police. We've had those cases. We've had cases where they will pull your gutter down before they ring your doorbell. They'll pull your gutter down. So your gutter is hanging. They'll ring your doorbell and say your gutter needs to be repaired. Call the police. If anyone comes to your door and solicits work unannounced, chances are they're trying to scam you. I would not even answer the door. I would just call the police, have the police deal with them. The same thing with chimney repairs and gutter repairs and driveway repairs. I'm not saying all these individuals are criminals, but I'm saying the ones that will come to you unannounced, usually they're scamsters. You should really go and use reliable people that you find through your children or through friends, through word of mouth, or again, someone that you call that you see advertises, and someone that is registered with the Better Business Bureau, or someone that is registered, you can call the county and ask them. They have many resources there of who are reliable servicemen and repairmen in your county. So these are things that you have to be on the lookout for. There's that old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it is probably too good to be true. So those are some of the in-person scams that we saw. But now let's talk about some of the telephone scams. So you may I've had a few people at many of these presentations tell me that they have experienced this scam that I'm about to talk to you, and we call it the grandparent scam. And that's where you're going to get a phone call early in the morning, usually from someone who purports to be a grandchild of yours, either a grandson or a granddaughter, or sometimes they say they're a law enforcement officer, or they say they're someone from the jail, or they'll say they're an attorney. And what they'll tell you is that your grandson has been arrested, or your granddaughter has been arrested, and that they're on their way to the jail right now. But if you send money right now, you give me your credit card number over the phone, $5,000, $3,000, we'll post bail and they will not go to jail. This is a scam. The red flag that should go up immediately is that there is no, and I say this, I always shout it at all these presentations, there is no cash bail in New Jersey anymore. There's been something called New Jersey that's been called criminal justice reform. And for approximately 3 years now, there is no cash bail. In the old days, you could walk up to the jail with cash, with a certified check, and bail someone out. That is not the case anymore. It has not been the case for 3 years. The bail system is now based on a detention system that is a computer matrix system. It deals with risk assessment. So individuals are assigned a number based on their likelihood to report back to court. And that is based on a whole slew of factors regarding what the charge is, where they live, what their age is, what their prior record is. So all this information is basically plugged into a computer, and the computer goes through an analysis and spits out a number. And most individuals that commit low-level offenses are released. Many individuals are now released on their own recognizance, are released on house arrest, are released on a bracelet, are released on reporting. So the only individuals that are really detained are individuals that are detained on some of those really serious charges that I told you about before, the armed robberies, the murders, the kidnappings, the rapes, the home invasions, the human trafficking, those first and second degree, very serious charges. Individuals are detained on those charges, but they're detained with no bail. So no money, you could bring, no amount of money can bail them out because they can't get out on money, not being held on money. They're being held on a number, a detention number that is found that they are a danger to themselves or the community. So they can't be released. So if you get a call from someone saying, give me your credit card number so I can post bail for your grandson or granddaughter, it's a scam. And they prey on the ignorance of the public because many people don't know that there's no cash bail in New Jersey anymore. And they try to get you early in the morning. Sometimes you're going to get a call and they may even have your grandson's name or your granddaughter's name because they scour social media and they know the name of your grandson or your granddaughter. And that's leads me to another point. Try not to put information about your family members online. Since I've gotten this job, my wife has not posted any more social media information about myself or my family. I don't want my son's names online. I don't want you to know my dog's name. And because a lot of times also, individuals go on social media. These criminals are very savvy individuals, are very tech savvy individuals, and they know by going onto the computer, if they can get your name, they get your child's name, if they get your dog's name, they know a lot of times people use their passwords of their child or their child's date of birth or their dog's date of birth or their dog's name or a combination of any of them. And the criminals will try all these different combinations until they're able to get your password and access your accounts. So try not to put personal information on social media. A lot of it is out there already because people can Google information. A lot of the information that's on Google today is it's unfortunate how much information is out there, but criminals use this information. So we also talk about in our office, try not to use as your password names of your children, names of your dogs, date of births, stuff like that, because again, criminals can get that information and try and figure it out. So that's just a tip with regard to that. Another phone type of scam that you may see is, you may get these calls anytime after a natural disaster. You may get a call from somebody saying that they have a GoFundMe page, or somebody that's saying, donate to a charity. These charities, again, when you send that money, you don't know who's on the other end of that phone. You don't know who's on the other end of that email that you send. So when you send money to someone that claims to be a charity, Sandy relief or Katrina relief or Ida relief, or the Haiti earthquake victims, you really don't know where that money's going. I would urge you to send that money to the Red Cross, Wounded Warriors, any type of organization that is a legitimate organization. You all have our favorite charities. Send the money to those charities. Really stay away from GoFundMe pages and stay away from individuals that call you soliciting over the phone to make donations to charities. The same thing with PBAs. You're going to have somebody going to call you and say they're from a PBA. Well, you know what? You tell them, I donate. I contribute to the PBA in my town. I go to the police department in my town. They give a little envelope. They stick it in your mailbox. You put your money in there and you bring it to the police department. That's how the police department gets your money. Don't make any donations to any PBAs over the phone. I'm going to tell you a general rule of thumb. I don't even answer the phone anymore in my house. I have my cell phone. If somebody's going to call me, I see that they're calling me. I know who it is, and I answer those calls. I don't answer any random numbers that I don't recognize. I don't answer 800 numbers. I don't answer 900 numbers. I don't answer any of these numbers of people calling me. A lot of times you're going to get these calls now, these warranty calls. They want to sell you an extended warranty. You don't need an extended warranty. Your car has a warranty. You don't need an extended warranty. But you'll get many of those calls. You're going to get all these robocalls. Hang up on the robocalls. Again, these are solicitations by individuals. We don't know where they are. A lot of these robocalls come from countries overseas, South Africa, Russia, other countries outside of the United States. And these are computer-generated calls seeking your money, and you don't know where that money's going. So do not answer robocalls, and do not, whatever you do not give any money over the phone. Do not give your credit card information out over the phone, or your bank account information out over the phone. So those are some of the scams that we see over the phone. We also see scams, over the computer. So, and getting back to the phone scams, the IRS will never call you and ask for payment. The IRS will send you letter after letter after letter. The IRS moves very slow, but they will never call you and high pressure you over the phone for money. And just as a general rule of thumb, I would never give my credit card information out over the phone. I would never, ever, to whoever's calling, give that information out and send money over the phone. On the computer now, you're going to see a lot of, you'll get emails from people that you're not expecting, or addresses that you don't know, or solicitations. If you open these emails, you may be opening your computer up to a virus or a hacker that will gain access to your computer. So if you don't recognize an email, or you're not expecting an email, do not open it. So, and also know, again, the IRS or banks will not send you emails asking for payment or asking for your personal account information. Another popular phone scam is, my son was almost a victim of one of these scams. They'll call you, someone will call you and say that they're from Bank of America. I've learned that 8 out of 10 people in the United States bank at Bank of America. So scammers know that if they pick up the phone and call you and say they're from Bank of America, they have an 8 in 10 chance of getting someone who actually banks at Bank of America. And they're going to fast talk you and tell you that your account has been hacked. And I'm watching right now. People are withdrawing funds from your account as we speak. You have to give me your information, give me your date of birth, give me your bank account number. And this doesn't make sense to us, but sometimes under the right circumstances, these individuals, again, make a high pressure sell, urgency, secrecy, immediacy, and people fall victims to these types of scams because they get nervous. Oh, Bank of America called. They know I have a savings account. They may have some information on you. Again, they may know your name. So they're gonna have just enough information to make it sound real, but then they're gonna, you're the one that's actually gonna open the door and let them in by giving them information that they ask for. That if you take a step back and think about it, it shouldn't be information that you're giving out. So this happened to my son. He got a call. The individual said he was from Bank of America. The individual said that his account was being hacked and they were taking out $5,000. And they had, give me your bank account number, and then talk to him a little bit more. And then asked him, have your name, what's your name is Gabriel, he knew his name, but what's your middle initial, and my son started giving out this information, date of birth. And before you know it, my wife was walking by and heard this and said, who are you talking to? And he said, my account is being hacked. And my wife said, that's not right. Hang up the phone. We went on the back of his credit card. You call the 800 number. We called Bank of America and they said that person was not from Bank of America. We don't make calls. If we call you, we ask you to verify, we ask you to call us back. So beware of that type of scam as well. Banks will not call you, Amazon will not call you, the IRS will not call you and ask you to give out personal information over the phone. Same thing on the computer. They will not ask you to give that information out on emails, and do not give that information out on emails. One other scam that we've been experiencing that's been taking place over the computer is these dating scams. And we call them romance scams. And sometimes they also, they work in a greed type of angle as well. And one of the scams that we've seen in Bergen County, this is a case that we actually had in our office where an individual, a widower, went on one of these dating sites. And again, I told you before, if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. She met a rich doctor who lived in Boca Raton and wanted to marry her. And he sent her pictures of his house on the water and his yacht. And I love you and I want to marry you and I'm going to fly you down here and we're going to get married. And by the way, I invented a medical device that is going to revolutionize, people aren't going to get heart attacks anymore, and we're going to make millions together. So you're going to get in on the ground floor. Send me your money. And again, if it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true. But these romance scams, this one took over 3 months. This guy invested in this woman. And again, he preyed on her because she was vulnerable. She was lonely. She wanted this to be true. She wanted this to be a rich doctor that lived in Boca Raton. She wanted to make money and be rich. And she sent $250,000 to him over the 3-month period, her entire life savings. And when he got the last payment and she went to continue to email him and talk to him, he ghosted her and he was gone. And we were able to trace those emails and that computer dialogue to South Africa. And we were not able to get any of her money back. So just beware of, again, if it sounds too good to be true, beware of these dating sites. And the whole thing is, again, if you would talk to somebody, and that's something else we talk about, slow down. They will tell you, don't tell anybody. They will tell you it has to be done now. It's immediate. So immediacy, secrecy, isolation. These are things that criminals prey on. But if she would have talked to somebody, maybe one of her friends or her children would have said, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. And that brings me to, something that happened to my father-in-law. My wife would take my father-in-law. He's a widower. He's a widower. My mother-in-law died a few years ago, and my wife takes my father-in-law to the doctor. And again, he's very lonely and he's always looking for companionship and dates. And so, people, these criminals, they know this, they can sense this, and they know where to find individuals. So my father, my wife takes him to the doctor, and you'll see that criminals will hang out outside doctors' offices and outside of convenience stores in order to maybe find a certain type of individual that they're looking for. So when my father-in-law came out of his doctor's appointment, my wife dropped him off, was going to run some errands. She came back. There was a woman that was outside, the doctor's office on a park bench. She was crying. She had a young child with her. And my father-in-law right away, what can I do? How can I help you? What's wrong? Let's get some ice cream. And before you know it, she needed $3,000 for her rent. And when my wife came by, he said, take me to the bank. And my wife said, what are you talking about? And he's like, I have to lend this lady. I just met this woman. She needs $3,000 for her rent. And my wife said, you're not giving her $3,000 for the rent. My wife called her. And when my wife got on the phone, she hung up the phone on my wife. So it was obviously a scam, but my father-in-law was ready to turn over his hard-earned money. You'll see when you go to buy your cigarettes, or you go to buy your coffee or your bagel, somebody may come up to you, and these are again, you say to yourself, how do people fall for this, and how people how can these be real life true cases? But they are, and we've seen this many times, time and time again. We call this the lottery scam. People will approach you at 7-Eleven and say, listen, I have the winning lottery ticket here. It's $10,000, and they'll have a newspaper and they'll have the ticket, but it's all photoshopped and it's not true at all. And they'll say to you, I can't collect the money because I'm illegal. I don't have documentation, or I don't have ID, or for whatever reason they give you that they can't collect the money, but they'll give you the winning lottery ticket that's worth $10,000 if you just give them $1,000 now. So again, too good to be true, but people fall for this. And it's a greed angle. I can make easy money. Whatever the reason, people have actually went to the bank, gave them $1,000, went to get cash in their lottery ticket, and it's a bogus ticket. You'll also see, if you buy and sell things over the internet on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or something like that, there's a scam that goes around where when you go to sell an item to them, say you're selling them sneakers for $100, they will send you a check for $500, and you'll get this check and you'll say, oh, I got a check for $500, but I only charged you $100. And then they'll call you and say, oh, I sent the check, or you call them and they say, I sent the wrong check. I'm sorry. I'll tell you what, just you send me the $100, or take the 100. They'll tell you to cash the check, but the check will bounce and will not be credited. So that check is a check that is bogus, and the money is not in that account, and that check will bounce. So they'll overpay you for the item and ask that you cash that check for them and send them the money back. So what they'll say to you is, there's a $500 check. I sent you the item was $100. Send me the balance. Send me the difference. And people actually send them their check for the balance, which is good. And when they go to cash that check for $500, it bounces because that check is no good. And we've seen that scam happen many times. So if you get an overpayment for something, it's call the police. The check is no good. It's a bogus check. So those are some of the scams that we saw in person. Those are some of the scams we saw over the phone. Those are some of the scams we see on the computer. And in the pamphlet that I've had Barry Lynn prepare, or that we emailed to her, that she's going to print out for you or send to you, email to you, it has all these scams that I just talked about on it. It also has on here some do's and don'ts, some things you can do just in your daily life to avoid some of these scams. So we've talked about verifying callers. We've talked about not to panic and to call friends and neighbors and the police. And we've talked about slow down. These are things you can do, just slow down and think about it. You all have common sense. You all have life experience. If it doesn't sound right, it's probably not right. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. And we also have some of the do's and don'ts in this pamphlet as well. And some of the do's and don'ts are, again, we've talked about a lot of these things. Do not limit the private information you give out, either over the phone, on social media, to friends, Instagram, Facebook. Do not give out personal information, because there's individuals out there that are surfing the web and always looking for personal information on you. Don't answer robocalls. We talked about that. Don't click on texts or emails that you don't recognize. Only pick up texts or emails of people that you know and people that you are expecting. Know that Amazon and Facebook and banks will never ask for your social security number or your bank account number or your personal information, dates of births or stuff like that. And they'll never do that over the phone. And know that banks and retailers will never ask you to download software that gives them access to your computer. If anyone ever says to you, I need access to your computer, I'm going to send you software that will allow me to access your computer, never, ever do that. Once you do that, you lose control of your computer, and you've basically now handed the control of your computer over to this unknown individual. Gift cards. Gift cards is another scam we see a lot. If anybody ever asks you for payment in gift cards, it's a scam. Gift card is like cash. Once you buy a gift card and send it to someone, you could never get that gift card back. It's like sending cash in the mail. So a lot of times people will say, pay me in a gift card. If you pay them in a gift card, you can't get the money back. So if you make a donation in a gift card, a lot of times these people will call and say the donation should be made in gift cards. It's a scam. I'm in the Lions Club in my town in Woodridge, and I got an email, and this is how sophisticated some of these scams are. I got an email from an individual in my Lions Club. His name is Dennis Brewbreaker. I have a person in our club named Dennis Brewbreaker. Dennis Brewbreaker was in charge of the Thanksgiving food drive and collecting the money to purchase turkeys. And he sent an email to a group, or he purportedly sent an email to the group saying, this year, send the money to me in gift cards, and send the money to this box office, or send the money to this address in gift cards. And something just didn't seem right. And thank God that Dennis Brewbreaker actually was checking the emails for the group and saw that this email came from him, but he never sent that email. He never originated that email. He never asked for gift cards. It was not his email. It was someone that was able to hack into his computer, or someone that was able to hack into our group and send an email saying it was from him, asking for gift cards to be sent to a address that was not Dennis's address. And so if anyone asks for gift cards, you got to be very careful. Call that person up and say, do you want me to send you a gift card? Why would you want me to send you a gift card? And you'll probably find out that that email did not originate from that person. So be very careful. Gift cards are something you can give as gifts to your grandchildren. I give my brother a Home Depot gift card for Christmas. He gives me a Home Depot gift card for Christmas. And again, verify the identity of utility workers, verify the identity of anyone that comes to your house. And it's just really generally a good idea, I'm sorry to say, not to answer the door and not to answer the phone, unless it's someone that you recognize on that caller ID. And I'm going to tell you this as well. We've seen now that they're able to manipulate the caller ID to say Mark Musella will come up in the caller ID, and you'll pick up the phone and you'll say, hi, Mark, and it'll be someone else, and hang up the phone immediately. If a caller ID comes up and it's not the person that you expect, hang that up. That's someone who's actually been able to manipulate that caller ID, because they know the people that call you, and they know that you won't pick up the phone unless you know someone, and now they have access to speak to you, and they're only gonna talk to you and try to fast talk you into some type of scam. So hang up the phone. If anyone, again, if you recognize the caller ID number, you recognize the name, you pick up and it's not that person, hang up. And if it's not a number that you recognize, I wouldn't pick up at all. So I think I covered almost everything that is in our brochure. I have some time for some questions now. If you have some questions with regard to either the prosecutor's office or some particular scams, I hope that that the presentation was useful and interesting, and that you got some tips out of this. And again, what I would tell you is share this information now with your friends, and share this information with your children, and talk about this within your group as well, because by talking about this, we can educate other individuals, and by educating, our friends and our neighbors, we can, again, prevent crime, and you could be a force multiplier for us. You can help us fight crime before it happens through education. Thank you.
Mark, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. My computer screen has frozen with the participant list, and I'm
Okay.
unable to do anything. But first, I want to say that I was able to listen to everything, and I can see you.
Good.
So it was incredibly informative, and I learned a great deal. I cannot access the chat, but Angelique, I think you can. So
Yes.
could you ask the questions that are in the chat?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions. One is from Norma. Any progress on check stealing from Teaneck Post Office? There was a few issues where checks were being stolen right out of the post box.
Yeah, I don't know in particular with regard to that, the Teaneck Police Department and the Teaneck. I can certainly call the chief and find out what's going on there. But we have experienced checks being stolen out of the mail, checks being stolen out of the from the post office, packages being stolen around this time of year. That happens. There's uptick in that. So, what I really can tell you is if there's some way to have mail slots. I have a mail slot in my door, so the mail comes right actually into my house. So it's hard for people to steal mail from me. Packages, we have a Ring doorbell. I tried it. My son's actually working from home now due to COVID. When a package comes, he picks it up and takes it in immediately. Try to have a friend or a neighbor take your packages in. Try not to leave those packages on the front porch for any extended period of time, because there's individuals that drive around now and they take the packages. But I don't have an answer with regard to the specific question of what's going on in Teaneck, but I can tell you that it is happening throughout the county, and we are aware of it. The post office, the postal inspector is it becomes a federal crime when you steal mail. So the postal inspector is working on that as well as the local police. But I know in my town, the mailboxes are now there's the slit where you cannot really access the mailbox at all. If you're talking about specific mail that was stolen from the post office itself, that would be a matter for the postal inspector that will be investigating. And I could also, I can find out through the Teaneck Police what's going on with that. And I can get an answer back to Barry Lynn or Angelique, but I don't know. I don't have any specifics on that case.
Okay, there's another question from Elizabeth. Services like Best Buy will take control of your computer to repair it. Should I not allow that?
Yeah, I would not allow that. I would not allow anyone to take control of my computer. You don't know. The problem is you don't know. They'll say they're from Best Buy, but you don't know that it is from Best Buy. So I would not do that. I would, again, call Best Buy, see if there's another alternative. What is the reason why they have to take control of your computer to do what? It just really, to me, there's no reason why anyone should have access to my computer.
Okay, someone else, I don't know if this is a complete question. What is the best way to send a letter? It's to send in your mail?
Yeah, the U.S. mail is still the best way to send. And listen, UPS, FedEx. We've had cases where things get stolen from FedEx packages as well, but a lot of times I believe they're insured through UPS and FedEx and through the post office. So the best way to send things is through the post office. Certified mail, certainly.
This morning, there was a news report about scams with companies for the holidays. Now, we'll reach out, say, for me, it would be like Children's Place, a store that these scammers actually pretend to be the actual store or company and say that there's a sale. And this is a new thing. So people making purchases and they're either not receiving the purchase or they're receiving a cheaper version.
Exactly. So that's why, see, when somebody calls you and solicits you to purchase something or make a donation or you don't know who's on the other end of that phone call. So the best thing to do is to hang up and call the company directly. Then at least you have some control. So if someone calls you up and says, I'm calling from Toys R Us or whoever that was, Children's Place, the best thing to do is, and they say there's because they're going to try and do that, that hard sell. You have to do it now. The sale's going to end. You only have, 10 minutes or whatever you have today by the end of the day. So purchase it now and you're going to get this, you're the 10th caller, whatever. And people fall for that. And the problem is it's 9 times out of 10, it's not true. And if you hang up the phone and you call the company back, they're going to tell you, we don't have that promotion. And that person that called you is not a representative of our store. And if by chance that person is telling the truth, when you call the company back, they'll tell you, yes, someone from our company is calling. And yes, there is that promotion. And yes, there is that sale. And they can give it to you then. So the problem is you have to take control. And the way you take control is by verifying. And the only way you can verify is if you make the call to the company through the official number that you'll find either on the internet or on a product, or again, on the back of your bank card. So you want to take control and you want to verify. And the only way you really can do that is if you make the call directly. You don't know who is calling you. You don't know who's on the other end of that line.
I think we're done with the questions. Carol has a question. I think this is a question. The Police Benevolent Fund calls every year.
Right.
We say, please put your solicitation in the mail.
What I tell you what I do is you're going to get calls from, there's many different PBAs. Okay. There's a state PBA, there's a county PBA, there's many different PBAs. What I do is I tell them I am donating to my local police department, which is the Woodridge PBA. I live in Woodridge. I know all the police officers in town. I am donating to the PBA. They'll give me a sticker. What I do is they come door to door in Woodridge. They put it in your mailbox. It's a little envelope, sort of like what they do with the Little League and the Cub Scouts. And you take that envelope, you put your check in there, and I hand deliver it to the Woodridge Police Department, which is 3 or 4 blocks away. I walk my dog, I go up there, and I make my PBA donation directly to the PBA in my town.
So I can't express completely enough, Mark, how extensive this information was. And I do want you to know that we did email out the brochure this morning, and we will email it out a second time.
And if
afterwards.
you need more, or you just contact Carol and she'll get them to you. And again, I urge you to share them with your friends, your family, and just please get the word out because you're helping us. I deputize all of you as deputies of the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office.
And second of all, I really think as an organization that really cares about people, I am so impressed, and I'm sure the audience was very impressed with your community engagement and education programs beyond the senior piece. And
thank you.
Also, you may know, about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, National Council of Jewish Women had an educational program with several of our other sections on, I think I have the right name, Operation of Hope and Darkness, the human trafficking ring that the Bergen County was very involved in and is still involved in, as I understand it.
Yep.
And human trafficking is one of our major advocacy issues. So we can't thank you enough for all of the work your office has done on that. And I'm sure that we've all learned a great deal from this presentation, and we are very, very pleased that you would come to us today. The information has been invaluable. So with that, I have to give my little PR about upcoming events. And I just want to remind everyone that we have a virtual trip to Yavna, Israel on December 7th. If you haven't registered, please do. There's an open board meeting on December 13th. Watch for emails on that. Register for the at-home series. The registered dietitian will give us tips on how we can eat more properly as we age. Also, I cannot ask enough, if you haven't done this already, is to look for your e-blast, the action alert that came out on Tuesday about the Reproductive Freedom Act. And if you haven't clicked on and sent the email asking that the Reproductive Freedom Act be posted and heard in committee at the New Jersey legislature this coming week, please do it. There are rallies going on all week, and we need to do our part. It is a critical piece of legislation in New Jersey. So with that, I would like to say thank you. If you're celebrating Hanukkah, enjoy lighting the light tonight. And we look forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everybody.